On November 9, 1975, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald departed Wisconsin and embarked across Lake Superior, carrying a load of iron ore pellets. It was a voyage the freighter had completed countless times before, yet this trip would be unlike any other. The Edmund Fitzgerald would never reach its intended destination of Zug Island near Detroit, nor would any of its 29 crew members. Construction of the Edmund Fitzgerald started in 1957 and finished the next year. At the time, it was the largest freighter on the Great Lakes, stretching 222 meters, 729 feet, from bow to stern. This massive vessel belonged to the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company and was named after its then president, Edmund Fitzgerald. Clearly, Mr. Fitzgerald took pride in the ship his company had built, and he wasn't the only one. The crew and captains shared that same admiration. In its early years, the ship was renowned for routinely transporting record-breaking cargo loads each season while maintaining a flawless safety record. The Edmund Fitzgerald was also a favorite among tourists and ship enthusiasts, particularly under Captain Peter Pulser's command. Known for playing music over the ship's tannoy to motivate the crew, he would often step onto the deck with a bullhorn as the vessel passed through locks, entertaining spectators with lively commentary and trivia. Hauling cargo across America's Great Lakes might sound like ordinary work, and the Edmund Fitzgerald was often called a workhorse. Yet, to those who knew her best, she was a beloved one. Well maintained in her early years, by 1975 she was far from reaching the end of her expected service life. Barring any issues, many believed she could remain operational well into the 21st century. But that was not to be. On November 9, 1975, the Edmund Fitzgerald began what should have been a routine journey from Wisconsin to Zug Island, laden with iron ore pellets. She set sail around 2:15 p.m. with fair weather reported at the time. A storm was forecast for the early hours of the next day, but the National Weather Service initially predicted it would stay south of Lake Superior, posing no threat to the ship. Just 5 hours later, however, they revised their forecast. Far from skirting the southern edge of the lake, the storm unleashed gale-force winds across the entirety of Lake Superior. At the helm of the Edmund Fitzgerald for this fateful voyage was 63-year-old Captain Ernest M. McSorley. Upon receiving the alarming forecast, McSorley altered course, directing the freighter toward the Canadian shoreline in hopes of finding refuge from the punishing waves and wind. By 1 a.m. on November 10th, the Edmund Fitzgerald was locked in a fierce struggle against the raging storm. Winds howled at over 50 knots, and waves towering more than 3 meters, 10 feet, battered the ship's hull. Yet the vessel pressed forward, stubbornly inching through the tempest. Morning arrived, but the storm raged on. Around 2:45 p.m., snow began to fall, compounding the already treacherous conditions. Visibility plummeted, forcing the Edmund Fitzgerald B to slow to a near halt. At 3:30 p.m., Captain McSorley radioed the nearby SS Arthur M. Anderson, which was trailing roughly 16 kilometers, 10 miles behind, on the same route. "I have a fence rail down, 2 vents lost or damaged, and a list," McSorley reported. Here, list, meant the ship was leaning to one side. He requested the Arthur M. Anderson remain nearby in case of emergency. Later, around 7:10 p.m., the Anderson's first mate checked in with McSorley. After offering navigational advice, he asked, "By the way, Fitzgerald, how are you making out with your problems?" McSorley's reply was grimly stoic. "We are holding our own." These would be the last words ever heard from the Edmund Fitzgerald. The Anderson's crew repeatedly tried to raise the Fitzgerald by radio, but received no response. Radar showed no trace of the ship. They alerted the Coast Guard, first with concern, then with a dire report. The Edmund Fitzgerald had vanished. By 9 p.m., the Anderson reached the safety of Whitefish Bay, nestled between Michigan and Ontario. Soon, however, the Coast Guard ordered the Anderson to turn back and search for the missing freighter. The captain's hesitant reply spoke volumes about the conditions. "Well, I'll go back and take a look, but God, I'm afraid I'm going to take a hell of a beating out there. I'll turn around and give her a whirl, but God, I don't know. I'll give it a try." Despite the brutal weather, the Anderson led the search, but found nothing. The only remnants of the Edmund Fitzgerald were a shattered lifeboat and scattered debris. After hours of scouring the turbulent waters, the grim truth was unavoidable. The Edmund Fitzgerald had gone down. The disaster left many unanswered questions, chief among them what had actually caused the sinking. No distress signal was sent, and not a single crew member managed to escape in a lifeboat. Why did other ships in the area survive the storm when the Edmund Fitzgerald did not? Was there a flaw in the ship's design that doomed it? Even now, after years of thorough investigation, there are no definitive answers, only theories. The wreck, discovered 5 days after the sinking, has been examined and explored numerous times. The ship lies in 2 broken sections, leading some to believe it snapped under stress while still afloat. Others argue this couldn't have happened and insist the vessel was overwhelmed by massive rogue waves. Another camp claims flooding in the cargo hold was to blame, or that the ship struck a reef in the storm's chaos. Some even suggest the Fitzgerald hadn't been maintained as diligently under Captain McSorley as in earlier years. Evidence emerged that repairs had been delayed or hastily patched, and McSorley was known for driving the ship hard, refusing delays even in severe weather. Could his decisions have doomed the Edmund Fitzgerald? While the exact cause remains uncertain, multiple contributing factors were identified in later investigations. Though no single issue bore full blame, sweeping safety changes followed. After the tragedy, depth detectors became mandatory for heavier vessels, as did survival suits for all crew. Navigation and communication systems on the Great Lakes were significantly upgraded, along with updated charts. The U.S. Coast Guard also implemented stricter ship inspections. These waters remain hazardous, but thanks to these measures, and others, no disaster as deadly as the Fitzgerald's sinking has occurred since. A memorial honoring the 29 lost crew members stands near the shore at Whitefish Point, Michigan. The ship's bell and anchor were recovered and now reside in museums, preserved in tribute. The lost sailors were skilled and proud. Though we may never know exactly why they perished, we can recognize the immense risks they took to do their jobs. Shipping on the Great Lakes continues today, a routine yet vital task that drives industry and sustains a nation. The daily crossings of Lake Superior and the other Great Lakes may seem unremarkable simply because they're so commonplace. The cargo is ordinary, the work steady. But as the Edmund Fitzgerald reminds us, those who crew these ships face grave dangers in this often overlooked labor.